What we're really focusing on this year is a lot of tier one instruction.
Okay.
And the big piece is not just like what you're teaching, but making it as accessible as you possibly can be. So there's a big difference like, oh, this is our tier one instruction, but is it really accessible to our English language learners, our kids from low socioeconomic backgrounds, our special ed kids? Like, are we really accessible? So that's been the big push this year.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brighter Together podcast. My name is Janet Courtney, and my special guest today is Julian Duffey. Julian is the Special Education Director at Teton County School District 401 in Driggs, Idaho. Julian, it's great to have you on the show today.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Tell us, Julian, a little bit about you and about Teton. Is it Teton or is it Teton? Teton, right? Or Teton?
Teton.
Teton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us. I had it right, but then I was questioning myself. Teton Community School District. Tell us a little bit about that too.
Yeah. So myself, I once upon a time was a naval officer, and I'm actually a disabled veteran. That's how I got into education.
Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome. I got my master's of technology for a while, and then moved across to Idaho. I was in Maryland at first, and
that's a big move.
Yeah, well, I went to high school in Idaho, so I at least got to go back. When I moved back to Idaho, I recertified special education because I connected with those students, especially the students that had more mild to moderate disabilities, and frankly, some students that just didn't, I guess, fit in gen ed. I really liked building those relationships. And then from there, just continued, got another master's to be an administrator, got my special education director endorsement. Worked as an assistant principal in a few districts. Was District 93 special education director for 8 years in Idaho Falls. Started a little business on the side, doing some disability consulting. Worked in Jefferson County for a little, and now I'm in Teton County School District. I'm a special education director, and it's actually my first year here, but my 14th as a special ed director.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, the county the district is small, so about 250 kids with disabilities.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Teton County now. How big? Give us some demographics and just some information about the school itself.
So the school district is smaller, closer to 3,000 students. There's an upper and lower elementaries, so K through 3 go to three different elementary schools, and then there's a larger 4 through 6, and there's a middle school and a high school.
Okay.
The demographic is interesting. There's a pretty significant mix because Driggs, where the district is very close to Jackson Hole.
Okay.
And so there's been a lot of influx, a lot of growth. Property value has gone up several 100% over the years. So it has a very interesting demographic as far as we have folks that are English language learners. We have a lot of folks that are from sort of low socioeconomic status, but then we have folks that have lived here, their families have been here their entire lives, and then we have people that have moved in and bought fairly expensive houses and live in. They've just really enjoy the area and the outdoors. It's an astoundingly beautiful location right at the foot of the Tetons, the Grand Tetons.
Okay, so it is the Teton Mountains we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
I guess I should have clarified that before we even went on the air, but I was like, make sure. Yeah. So very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So you are the director. Are you over all special education, and then you have coordinators under you? How does that work what's your structure?
Yeah, so in a larger district, I've had coordinators and all that. Here, it's actually been kind of fun because I've had to learn all the things I've forgotten. I'm pretty much a one-man show. So I'm my own director, Medicaid biller, coordinator,
Wow.
everything. So from staffing, training. So I pretty much do everything here. And then we have school psychologists. We have kind of a 0.75 and a half. So we make do, and we have 5 SLPs. About 16 special education teachers. So still, pretty small, but the thing that we do have is a lot of heart, which is nice.
Yeah,
Um, so so they're a
that's important.
good team to
Yeah,
work with.
that's nice.
Mhm.
So you don't have to be at every single IEP meeting, do you?
No, but I do, to get to know the teachers and to get to know the administrators. I'll cover for them because I
Okay,
can be pretty darn mobile when the district is. There is about a 20-minute drive from one end to the other because it's fairly
gotcha.
big, but
Okay,
um, but I attend as many as I can and spell the school administrators there so I can hang out with the teachers, especially our New York teachers, so I can kind of monitor their IEP process, give them some feedback if they need it at the meetings, get to know some of the parents,
right.
but mainly just get to know everybody.
Yeah. And you said, do you start at kindergarten or do you have a pre-K program as well?
We have a very, very nice preschool.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, we just have an astoundingly good preschool teacher. But I shouldn't say that too loudly so nobody comes to try and take her away. But yeah, but we do have a really, really nice preschool. And yeah, we go all the way through to high school. So.
Through the high school. Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. So, what would you say are, obviously the team is really a strength. What other things do you think are strengths that you bring to the table for the parents? And I know you have some, we talked a little bit before the show went on about helping them understand the whole process.
Yeah, I've worked extensively with parent groups over the years and parent advocates, trained as many people as I can because I really believe that the more parents know, actually, and the more everybody knows, that the less likelihood there is of actual conflict.
Hmm.
Because a lot of it, I think, is related to just simply not understanding special education process quite as well. And so being as absolutely transparent as you possibly can be is a big priority. Working with, I have several friends that run a Facebook group that has, I don't know, about 1,700 parents at this point. And we communicate as much as we possibly can. And just try to share as much knowledge as possible. So, being a smaller district, the district has had several special ed directors throughout the years, but I've been bringing a fair amount of experience with me, so I think they've been happy to have that, and it has
Well, of
been
course.
fun as far as adjusting because it's smaller, so I've had to adjust my viewpoints as well. So it's actually been fun. You figure out where all your blind spots are,
Yeah.
and you forget to assume anything. Like some processes you might be familiar with don't exist, or they're going to look different, especially when most of the administrators are wearing multiple hats, and that
Hmm.
that is something that's kind of unique too with small districts.
Yeah. So, how long did you say you've been at this particular school? Is this your
This
first year?
district is actually my first year
First
here.
year. Awesome. So
Hmm.
you're definitely in that learning, but it's March. You're there.
Yeah.
So those of you that are listening, it's March 11th, 2026. It will be probably May when this comes out. So, and you'll definitely have your 1 year under your belt, but
Hmm.
you've also got all of this knowledge and experience that's following you behind it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
It's it.
awesome.
Mhm.
You guys have one of the hardest jobs, I think, on the planet.
Uh, it's
It's
it's definitely it's very hard to communicate how to be a special ed director. I know basically sped directors when we all get together, we can't stop talking because it's like we found our people. But it's
hmm
definitely one of the more specialized areas, I think, of district administration. And we're always, I usually like to say, we're always the inconvenient truth people. Like, if there's something that's going to throw a wrench into the works is going to be something with special education or, a process piece, student discipline, student attendance. It could be a billing piece. It could be funding. Um, but I do appreciate all the checkpoints that are in special education because they're all designed to protect students and
Right.
to protect their rights. And so even though, sometimes those things are inconvenient or can be annoying, they have a really good purpose. I
Mm-hmm.
usually say everything in special education has a telegraph to it. There's usually a warning. There's if an action is coming, you're sending a written notice, you're sending an invite, you're having a meeting. So everything in special education is always very well telegraphed and communicated. And I usually explain to people that's because special education does something rather poignant. It does take away a parent's educational decision making to a certain extent and replaces it with a team. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so I always tell people like, do not underestimate like the power of the team and working with the parent is absolutely critical because we've done this rather poignant thing and we're trying to best serve the kids. So always have that good telegraph, that good communication, and be as open as you possibly can be. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And sometimes it's so overwhelming for parents, especially when they're little. That first IEP meeting where we're doing the identification and getting them qualified for services and
Hmm.
just it can and it's so critical at that point that they understand exactly what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and for parents, of course, that first meeting can be terrifying because you get to walk in and there's people maybe you haven't met before. Um, I try to communicate to teams that treat it like when you're a patient, you're going to have surgery. Like someone comes in and introduces themselves and tells you what their function is and tells you what's going to happen and kind of primes you along the way. And
Mm-hmm.
I really think that like with IEP meetings, we should work a lot harder at like, hey, this is what we're going to do, and these are the people that you're going to see, and this is what their purpose is, and sort of prime the pump before before a parent gets to walk in as a table full of people, all wondering, trying to look at data about their student. So definitely, that initial part can be very intimidating. But if anything, I could say to parents, just ask as many questions as you possibly can,
Yeah.
because the more you ask, the better off it is.
There is a crisis in this country, a massive shortage of special education teachers. We know how devastating this can be for your students, families, and staff. Lighthouse Therapy places experienced special education teachers in virtual, hybrid, and on site roles, and we handle everything from hiring to onboarding to mentorship. These aren't just placements, they're professionals who understand compliance, collaboration, and care. Let us help you fill in the gaps with special education teachers who really understand. We are here to help. Visit lighthouse-therapy.com/brighter together to connect with us today. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because even if we do everything we can to tell you it's still a long meeting and there still is a lot of information that's thrown at you.
Hmm.
So, make sure that you remain a part of that team and don't go away going, I can't do this. You
Hmm.
really, you're the parent. You don't really have a choice anymore, right? It's your
Yeah.
child. Let's make sure that, and then there's others that just grasp it and get it. And it's a spectrum for sure of
Hmm.
parents even.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you're putting them in, that your focus is making sure that they understand because they're, no matter what, they're the first line for the kids. They're their first teachers, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and it's really critical. I really like to think of an IEP meeting and an IEP is really just a continuing conversation. The more we think about like the plan, and the goals and those things as protections and services and a relationship. To be honest, I think it makes the processes feel a little better because sometimes we just, oh my gosh, another piece of paperwork. Oh, we've got this piece. Um, I think sometimes we just need to look at it in terms of, yeah, we're we're providing, a critical service. We're having this ongoing conversation on how to best serve the student. It shouldn't be something, that we're just dreading or, that we view as an inconvenience, and just consider it
Hmm.
a constant conversation, I think is the best way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Helping them understand the plan and what's next and,
Mhm.
and bringing the kids in too. I mean, one of the things as a therapist I always did was, because I don't get to see kids anymore. It's one of the hardest parts of my starting a company and being where I am. But one of the things I always did when they were old enough was, okay, you're in speech therapy. Why are you in speech therapy? If they don't understand why they're there,
Mhm.
you're not going to make it. You may make progress, but you're going to make more progress if they understand. And then I talk to them about their goals. So this is
Mhm.
what we're going to work on, and this is why it's important, and this is what I want. We want for you to help you to be able to speak better or to
Mhm.
understand better or whatever, and putting it into terms that they understand at the level that they're at. And I
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's so important.
And always to make sure that the student isn't defining themselves by their difficulty. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a job in
Mm-hmm.
there for service providers and special ed teachers, and gen ed teachers to work that in, that they're not somehow using, a student's disability or their category or their service as a way to define them, and helping them kind of understand that, like, this is just something that makes you, unique, and
Nuki,
we're,
yeah.
we're just going to navigate this, and you're awesome.
Yeah,
um
exactly, exactly.
and there's a lot to be said in there as far as how we approach the kiddos.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. The other thing is always like, what do you love to do? That was always my fun thing. My husband used to say, "You just get to play for a living," and I was like, "Heck yeah, it's great!" Because
Mhm.
I would always try to make it as fun as possible for the kids, and I always talked about that hook. The thing. What is that thing that child loves that we can talk about, that we can work on, that we can whatever to get them excited about coming and being there. And sometimes you can see it right away, and sometimes you have to kind of tease it out,
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
them. And I've had 32 years of this, so it's the same kind of thing, you just really and to know that they are awesome and that we love them and we want them to do well and that no matter what, they are an amazing human being.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So awesome. Okay. So, what about early intervention? Do you do MTSS? How multi-tiered system of
Yes.
support? There we go.
Mhm.
How's that program going for you guys?
So like any district, sometimes you just need a good reset. I think the place where people usually get hung up on MTSS is how do we collect good, relevant, and actionable data. And I think that, a lot of that starts with training the general education teachers. So there's not this sort of creep into special ed, because special ed will always sort of flow to fill a gap if it can, because we all want to try and help.
Right.
Um, what we're really focusing on this year is a lot of tier one instruction.
Okay.
So, and the big piece is not just like what you're teaching, but making it as accessible as you possibly can be. So there's a big difference, like, oh, this is our tier one instruction, but is it really accessible to our English language learners, our kids from low socioeconomic backgrounds, our special ed kids? Like, are we really accessible? So that's been the big push this year. Early interventions we've been working on. We've worked a lot with speech in the kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
There's, and I don't know if you've felt it as well, but there's COVID possibly kind of created a bubble of
Yep.
kiddos that potentially just didn't interact with as much language as as they might have normally. So we've had a few. It wasn't just in this district, but a few times where you might have, out of 90 kids, they're saying, oh, 30 of them have speech issues. So we spent a lot of time with our SLPs trying to get them into doing early interventions with the kindergarten teachers. providing some instruction in the classrooms, and then looking at sort of tier two, partial kind of group pullout in the second try.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yep.
when we hit third try, if they've had those good tier one, tier two, and we're still worried, then we'll probably go into like a full blown assessment
Assessment
at
and
that
an
point.
IEP. Yeah.
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 But there's so
Yeah.
many little developmental things that happen along the way,
Mm.
that it has become very important to look at early, with some of those speech and language issues right off the bat.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's we it's something that we do here as well at a couple of our school districts is we have MTSS speech therapists that are doing similar to what you're talking about and intervention cycles and making sure that, we identify as needed and then and sometimes it's all they need. All they need is
Mhm.
those 6 weeks or maybe 12 weeks depending on the child, but it keeps them off of an IEP, gives them a hand up, and helps them uh, to move forward and not be stuck, right?
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
I really love that.
And there's a little give and take, I think, sometimes looking at, with the IEP teams when, sometimes we look at related services, there's always a piece of how do you balance taking a student out for speech, and how do with how much time they're spending in general education. But sometimes, the therapist will make a really good case on, hey, if I do intensive work with the students on an IEP for 3 months, three times a week, I can change their life, and we'll fold that sort of thing into a plan, and
Hmm.
to a program, and then have a checkpoint already set up at 3 months to see where we're at and how well that sort of really intensive piece helped. So sometimes I think we want to make sure we aren't too cookie cutter, with our services. Occasionally,
Right.
there's that piece that comes along and you're like, okay, I can really make a difference if we focus on this for a bit. But
Yeah.
um
It's
yeah,
great that
this
you guys have that too, because, giving the therapist, one of the things that we say here always, and I've worked for other companies and heard this from other therapists that I know, where they'll work for a company and they'll say, well, every kid is 30 minutes twice a week. And
mhm,
it's like, what?
yeah.
No, that's not individualized education plan. That's you're trying to increase revenue and it has absolutely nothing to do with the child's needs. And I hate it when I hear that because it's
Hmm.
like one of the things we always, our mission is to be a therapy company run by therapists for therapists, but for the betterment of students. So I have always told my therapists, do what's clinically appropriate for the children that are assigned to you.
Hmm.
I, as the CEO, am never going to tell you how to see a child. I'm never
Yeah.
going to, I can attend an IEP meeting if I'm licensed in that state and give you a general. I mean, I can look at an IEP and tell you, but I'm not the one who's working with that child. So, you have to decide within the bounds of the team and that parent and working in conjunction with them. We always consider our therapists when we contract with a school, that therapist may work for Lighthouse, but that therapist is yours. That's somebody that you have hired us to give you so that they can be a part of your team. And that's critical. And it has
Mhm.
to be because, they're going to be people that are making decisions on students that you work with every single day. And we want to make sure that as a company, we take care of that piece of it. And it's got to be, if you don't keep it up front, it gets lost.
Yeah. I usually just tell my therapist, look, it really comes down to making a good logical argument,
Yeah.
or a logical case, because I know better than to argue with an SLP. I just don't, no, don't ever argue with a speech pathologist, occupational therapist, physical therapist, or school psychologist. I just, but I do really value like the highly trained, specialists that work with students. So usually it's like, okay, let's look at the data or the testing, like what does research suggest might be helpful,
Yeah.
and then at that point it's go for it. Like
Yeah, we
it's
are a
like you said,
passionate bunch, aren't we?
yeah. It's
For sure.
it's individualized. So I think that's
Yeah.
one of the pieces was, sometimes we can work there's no real rule book. Sometimes we just
Yeah.
work what we know is best.
Yeah, and I love that about it. That's been individualized, and it sounds like you guys are doing an amazing job. And I love that for your kids because, when the kids get what they need, the kids win and the school wins and society wins because, we are creating the next generation. We're training up the next generation. So awesome.
Yes.
So, Julian, if you could fix just one thing in your world, and it can't be money. We know no schools
Yeah.
have enough money. We know that. But if you could miraculously say, in my job right now, if I never had to deal with this one thing again and it was just fixed, what would that one thing be?
All right. It's only one.
Yep, you got to pick one. Which one comes to mind first?
Mm-mm. Um, I think if I could fix one thing very quickly, it would be to make sure that gen ed teachers knew a bit more about how to differentiate instruction.
Huh, that's a good one.
Um, yeah. So, because I think sometimes, like there has been, I think over the years, just more of a habit to sort of, okay, these are the sped kids, they go over here.
Mm,
And really, the best way to make progress with the special ed students is that partnership. You know,
mm-hmm.
the special ed teacher gives the gen ed teacher ideas the gen ed teacher can implement, and that true back and forth partnership, I think, is where I think that's probably the lowest hanging fruit in special education.
Yeah.
Um, like just getting together and problem solving and trying to forget about I've got this standard or that standard or you go here, you go there, and just get creative and
Mm-hmm.
work together to reach the students. I think that's probably where.
Yeah. In 32 years, I have never found a single student that perfectly fit into a box.
Mhm,
Not one of them, because they're all individual, they're all human beings, right? They're all amazing little people that need our help, but it doesn't. And that was, as an early therapist, they teach you theory and they teach you all of these cool things, and you
mhm,
want to go out gung ho and apply them, and all of a sudden you get in the real world, and it's like, wait a minute, that's not what they told me. How do I figure that out? And that's the learning process. I think that's so incredible as you become a better therapist, is understanding that each one of these children is a child that needs you in a certain way, but also has all their own stuff as well.
mhm.
And that's what makes them so incredible, is that every single one of us is different, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's beautiful.
Mm.
It's beautiful. All right, Julian, where do people go if they want to learn a little bit more about what you guys are doing?
Um, for as far as Teton
Yeah.
or just in
Teton, or it
general.
can be, Teton. Yeah, Teton and special
Mhm.
education, your department. I'm assuming it's on your website, but that's a
Yeah,
big
yeah. I mean,
assumption on my part.
for us, it's just Teton School District. Just go to the website. You'll find my contact information, emails. If parents are looking to um, learn a bit about special education, there's tons of resources out there. But Idaho has a very good statewide training group called SESTA, and they have a website where they put all the trainings called the Idaho Training Clearinghouse. So if they just Google
Ah,
that, and there's a ton of resources that pop up as far as IEPs, services, things for parents, paraprofessionals, for teachers, etc. So there's a lot of interesting resources that have been collected together. So that's a good spot.
so how do you spell
Mhm.
SESTA, just so people
Oh,
that are not
uh,
watching can know?
it's I'm gonna get it wrong, but it's SESTA, but I believe it's Special Education Statewide Technical Support and Assistance.
Okay, that's
So
cool.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Just so they have it, just so they know when they're looking at Google's pretty good,
Hmm.
but I
Yeah.
always want to make sure people have all of the information if especially if you're recommending it. It's
Hmm.
important that they be able to find it, right? So,
Yeah, well, the best resources sometimes are free resources. So,
yes. Yeah.
I know that they all work their heart out getting things together, and they do a pretty good job of training us special ed directors. And then they work in cooperation with the State Department. So
Awesome.
yeah, they all work out of Boise State University.
Oh, neat.
Mhm.
Very, very
Mhm.
cool. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Julian, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on Brighter Together. I know that your department is brighter because of what you guys are doing, and the kids are benefiting from it, and that's such a great thing to see. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks very much.